exceptional team fighting that even when they do fall behind, tends to bounce them back into games. And speaking of bouncing, Zach bounces out of the game in the Bands of the Unicorns.
And of course, we know Xerxes to pretty much be a tried and true hand on this champion, but doesn't want to see it in the hands of Trashy either. And LeBlanc taken off the board for Exile. We heard a lot about this man. Exile likes the champs and go up in people's faces. And Ivern taken off the board as well. So a lot of bans already away from Xerxes.
And the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how hit the jungle pool for Splyce, and that can normally put Trashy on a bad pick. No more is that the case. The Lee Sin has been an answer to that question a couple of times. So with the Ivern off the board for the Unicorns of Love now, you have to feel like the Lee Sin, the Elise, the Kha'Zix suddenly will shoot up in priority in this draft.
And I'm always excited to see those champions, but not necessarily in the hands of guys like Trashy. Trashy, I feel like he's so good when he sets other people up for success, but when he plays those champions himself, like the Kha'Zix, doesn't always work out well for the team. But Rakan now banned away. Unicorns of Love get one last shot to ban those OP picks out before Splyce get their first pick. Xayah still up. We've seen now that without Rakan, it can still be good.
Thresh is available in this draft, and with Zyra banned out, that's what Unicorns are looking for here, is they're expecting Splyce to pick a tier jungler here that is, you know, highly desired for them, and then Hylissang just takes the Thresh. I actually feel like if you're Splyce, you maybe throw the curveball here, pick the Thresh or pick the Xayah in this rotation, and allow the Unicorns of Love to kind of flounder around on what they want to do.
Thresh is there. Unicorns of Love going to opt for. Now they get their first pick of the remaining junglers. They're also going to get their hands on the Shen for Vizicsacsi, and if there is ever a comfort pick, that is it. Vizicsacsi, incredibly solid on that pick, and of course has set so many members up for success, and Samux, surprisingly enough, getting the Twitch so early on in the draft.
Now, Twitch has been a great pick, especially paired with the Shen. We saw last week the triple kill come out for Samux, utilizing the Stand United, but for Splyce, this gives them the opportunity to pick up the Xayah here, paired with Thresh is an exceptionally difficult lane to deal with. Then we've also got to look at the top side of the map. This Gragas is, of course, a flex pick, one of Trashy's strongest picks historically, and can go against Shen up in the top lane should Splyce want it to. So I think you pick up the Xayah here before it's banned out in the next rotation, and the Unicorns of Love may have a bit of trouble in the bottom lane.
Interesting to see what the priority will be. Splyce are going to opt to lock in the Caitlyn, a bit of a comfort pick coming in for Kobbe, and we will see, as you mentioned, is the Gragas going to go into the top lane up against the Shen, or will it be the jungle pick for Trashy? Well, Unicorns of Love can't be too sure. But interesting now. See, are they going to match the support? And they are. Blitzcrank comes out for Hylissang, and I love this because both Mickey and Hylissang just love to leave their lanes.
Yeah, and
they love to go hit people anytime they get the opportunity.
We've seen 2 games of Blitzcrank out of Hylissang, and they have been pretty fun games. I think this right now is Unicorns of Love saying, okay, well, we anticipated you picking Xayah. It could have been the Caitlyn that they do, in fact, lock in. And this is Unicorns saying, okay, now you've got a kill lane on your hands. Caitlyn, you just now have to sit back in the lane. Thresh becomes a little bit less effective than you would normally imagine, as you don't want to get hooked in here. This is not the kind of lane you want to go toe-to-toe with.
Bit of an interesting exchange. Of course, Twitch notably weaker in the early game due to Doran's shield, but
yep.
Caitlyn also just not going to be too concerned in general. Has the range advantage in that lane, but now Unicorns of Love making bans pretty quickly here. Kennen taken away. Don't want to give it over to Wunder on the top side of the map, and they don't want the Taliyah in the hands of Sencook. So a lot of comfort picks already eliminated.
And you can see that with the Shen already picked up, they want to take away some of the presence from the middle lane. The Kassadin goes from a scaling component. The Syndra now goes from a lane dominant component. We know Splyce can play the Aurelion Sol given a good matchup. Orianna may very well just be the blind pick coming out here for Exile. But we've also seen him mix in a Vladimir game here and there. There's always been a couple of these crazy picks that are a little bit outside the meta for the Unicorns that we may see picked up later.
And I just love this. I love this season because at what point in the history of League of Legends could you have been like, oh yeah, so Warwick, Blitzcrank on the same team, and they're the best team in their group. Just absolutely sick pick fan phase. Have to see it in the hands of Xerxes, see how it'll work out.
Those of you at home playing the pick and ban game, trying to figure out exactly what the Unicorns are going, just like me right now, are going, okay, Shen, Twitch, good picks, but not necessarily first rotation priority. Then we got Blitzcrank, Warwick coming through. So Unicorns with perhaps one of the most Unicorns comps that we've seen in a very long time, but it will work out for them. Splyce, on the other hand, Jarvan picked up into that top lane, pushes Gragas to the jungle. Of course, Jarvan can do well into Shen. Looking forward to seeing where Splyce end up going in.
Aurelion Sol. And all right, you talked about the Orianna potentially being picked up by Unicorns. They don't opt for it. They opt to save that last pick for mid lane. It looks like it was a good choice because now they get the option to counter pick out this Aurelion Sol. But just such an obnoxious champion to deal with in the early game, and one of the few picks that we've really seen Sencux be incredibly successful on.
Yeah, he's very successful with the ability to push out lane, roam across. Exile goes back to a very old favorite of his in the Ryze. Of course, Ryze was hit with quite a few nerfs in the last year or so, so has found his way down out of pro play in every single game. Will be able to match some sense of the roaming play, will be able to skirmish effectively, and when you look at the Unicorns lineup, that's exactly what this lineup wants to do. You got the Twitch, the Blitzcrank, the Warwick that want to skirmish, and then in come a Ryze and a Shen on top of that, and hopefully you have the numbers in your favor.
Late game team fighting not bad from either side either. So two very interesting compositions coming out, and I like the comfort picks coming in the mid lane, but we've seen Splyce be successful on the Aurelion Sol. The Ryze, on the other hand, we know Exile is good at it. He is a beast at the champion, but the numbers are just strictly worse than the last time we see him pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. We want to watch out that mid lane matchup, see how Exile can manage against the Aurelion Sol. This is the most obscure draft so far in the day. Earlier on, we had G2 versus Misfits drafting the manager handshake. It's all right, not just the coaches getting in on the action. I don't think the rubber ring would really have fit backstage through that little entranceway there for Romain, so he had to leave that one home.
He's eager, man. He's eager to get in the water. Cannot blame him. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, at Twitter, hashtag SPYWin, hashtag UOLWin. If you would like to participate in the fan vote, I know the Love Hurts crew will be doing so. The crowd is ready. We're ready here at the caster desk because we have two crazy comps all about skirmishing. We've got fight potential in just about every single lane, and we want to see these teams duke it out here in game one.
And we got Ocean Drake.
And we have an Ocean. Very important information. If you wanted to know why we're not going to fight over the dragon, that's why.
Hylissang, though, you got to look at his roam potential on this Blitzcrank. He's the kind of support that loves to disappear out of lane at level 3 and just sit in the mid lane for about a minute. He's done this in splits gone by. He used to play a whole lot of Morgana, Leona that would do the same thing, just disappear and just say, okay, when it was Vardags, he was just like, just farm under tower. I'm going to go get kills in the mid lane. So I'm anticipating seeing the same thing again because that's what we saw out of him in the games this split that he's played Blitzcrank already.
And you got to like it too, paired with that Ryze. Come in, land the root for Ryze, that's a freebie. The point and click, then you just throw in the grab. You can chain that CC so easily, but it's interesting. Unicorns of Love draft priority continues to be kind of surprising. This is the first Ryze game we've seen across NA, EU, or LCK in terms of priority. So Exile, we'll see if falling back to a comfort pick is the right choice, but it's something we're going to have to track because it's not something we've seen really anywhere else.
No, and there are reasons, as we talked about it, the nerfs that we're seeing for Ryze, but the one thing that I think will still have the effectiveness, as we were talking about, the ability to join in these skirmishes early. The Warwick will be able to jump halfway across the map once you get later on. You can, essentially this comp is almost built to find one target, pick them off, and then you have a 5v4 at any point. We've seen comps like this have success. We've also seen a lot of failure out of comps like this. If you can't get the kill, if Splyce never give up the opportunities, then it's possible the Unicorns may very well struggle to get this composition rolling.
Oh, and we'll see, but for now, it's just the early laning phase. No too much action on either side. Interestingly enough, in the bottom lane, Kobbe not going to opt for the Doran's Blade. Just keeps up with the Doran's Shield, doesn't want to risk anything here, takes for the safer item, and really Mickey and Kobbe already getting the better end of the trades, but for now at level 1, range sort of trumps all here for Kobbe. It's going to be difficult for Samus to contend.
Yeah, and unless Kobbe really stands out in the open, Hylissang isn't finding a hook. This is one of the reasons why Caitlyn generally is an okay pick into Blitz. You sit behind the minion wave and never offer an opportunity. A lot of people think that maybe it's because you've also got the 90 caliber net. That is not a reliable disengage tool. That is not reliable for dodging a Blitzcrank. So it's not quite like the Ezreal Arcane Shift.
The Ezreal Tristana level where you can just input buffer and just get out of anything.
Caitlyn, not so much. You dash like a teeny amount, then still get hooked and look stupid at that point. But I think Kobbe just sits behind the minion wave and does well. But here's Mickey doing his Hylissang impression. We were talking about this. It's a level earlier.
Forward, hook gonna get sidestepped. Nice movement coming from Exile. Does burn the Ghost, but Not bad. Just trading the Summer Spell. We can call that a win overall for Mickey, but much better than it could have been for the side of Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, I think the Unicorns will heavily appreciate the fact that Exile didn't even have to flash in that exchange. As you mentioned, burned the Ghost, but that will be quite a short cooldown. I feel like in this matchup, though, Sencux isn't going to have the greatest amount of kill pressure, whereas top lane, we look at Chachi. This is what he loves to do on Shen. Finds a matchup where he can just trade in the early game and get damage down onto Wunder, but he has to be careful he doesn't push up too far because Trashy is just one flash gank away from coming top lane.
And we have to remember, we're used to seeing Shen in these tanky matchups, but against other more vulnerable champions, his base numbers are crazy high, and you got to see for both of these teams how crucial their top laners are for success. Now, Wunder, he feels like the one man on Splyce that is consistently doing something, but Chachi, on the other hand, often all about the team with these picks like Shen.
Yeah, and the MVP of the spring split, a lot of people have looked at his individual performances this split and maybe haven't quite been so convinced. He has been struggling when playing Gangplank into Shen a couple of times. That was one of the matchups that Odoamne
he got absolutely just destroyed by Odoamne. But that's the same case for Wunder. We remember that Akali game from Wunder. He just face first into Akali to die over and over again, and it was just brutal to watch.
While the player isn't in this game specifically, the common factor in that was it was both against Odoamne. So maybe that's a rise in Odoamne's strength in the top lane for H2K. But for this game, we're looking, as you said, Wunder has been such a big proponent of what Splyce have wanted to do. And on the Jarvan, you can have that kind of impact where you're carrying the game. He just needs to get a kill or something to start the game going, because a Jarvan that is neutral or behind is so ineffective.
Yeah, at the same time, we also have to keep our eyes on that Shen ultimate. Where the first one's going to go, is it going to be the aggressive use? Where we see Unicorns of Love being the ones with the play priority, the ones trying to force something to happen. Are they going to be very responsive in the way they want to play the game? Not there yet, however, but we look across the lanes, and things are going pretty well for Vizicsacsi in terms of the CS department. 28 to 37, of course, a decent wave crashing to the tower does mean that that will be mitigated to a certain degree, but still some positive bonuses here on the side of Unicorns of Love.
Splyce on the other side have the mid lane and bot lane advantage. It's kind of difficult to punish this Caitlyn we already spoke about. The same could be said in the mid lane. Is Sencux the ability to use that Comet of Legend to get back into the lane makes it so difficult to accrue a CS lead over an Aurelion Sol, but if you don't get the roams right on Aurelion Sol, that's another instance where you can be ineffective. It does take planning and setup time because it's such a long cooldown that it can be difficult to make sure you can get out to the side lane, especially if you get traded on in lane first.
Yeah, I like this from Exile. He is at least matching the wave pressure of the Aurelion Sol for now, just constantly threatening to go for those aggressive trades. So you talked about getting top lane ahead. Maybe Splyce want to start by getting mid lane ahead. Now Trashy is here, but Warwick is on the way. Ones of Love have to be careful here.
No one's level 6 yet, so that does mean that Trashy would have ever so slightly better influence on this than Xerxes utilizing that flash. But there's always the unknown factor, Hylissang. But now he's known, because he just walked over a wall.
I'm not 100% sure if that trap icon is a visual bug or if we just have perma-sight. Okay. Definitely not the case. Just want to make sure that his roam was not completely revealed there.
I believe it's a spectator issue. Happens a couple of times when you step on a Caitlyn trap, and then it kind of sticks around.
He's just got an extra pair of eyes, folks. It's nothing to worry about. It just happens sometimes.
But that is the dangerous play coming from Hylissang. If he does get into that lane unseen, there's a massive amount of threat. But speaking of people getting into lanes unseen, Xerxes, he's 6 now.
Ooh, that's
Wunder, can he get out?
Ooh, nice. Interrupts him, loses the movement speed, makes the range on Infinite Duress shorter, and that keeps Wunder alive. Not even going to burn the flash, so well played in the end.
You know, when you say something and then one of the pros on stage just proves you completely wrong. Cubby that time is just like, I'll use the
still
net
nets out, still predicts it. Not as much of a reactive skill, but still makes it out of range.
But in that top lane, though, the key thing there from Wunder on the escape that was effective is the fact that he got himself within flash range of his tower. So even if the Infinite Duress comes out, as long as he reaction flashes it, he'll still be safe at that point, and there's no real way for Xerxes to convert it into a kill.
And of course, we look at it. Shen does have good damage with those early bases, but it's damage over time, right? It's over multiple auto attacks. There's just not really a way that a Warwick and a Shen can just burst down a Jarvan instantly. Although we'll see if that's where he wants to continue to apply his jungle pressure. You can see a lot of vision on the top side for Splyce, rather that blue trinket keeping him safe for now. But Unicorns of Love ready with some wards of their own. They're going to know where that Jarvan is at all times.
And I think for the Unicorns, they'll be quite happy that this has been a slower paced start to the game. We already kind of addressed the fact that this Twitch, this Blitzcrank will struggle in the laning phase to get a lead, but now's the time they need to open up on the map. Get that Twitch going into either the middle lane with the Blitzcrank, or at least have effect from this roaming support, because if Blitzcrank is stuck in the bottom lane, that's the kind of time where he's having zero impact and where other support picks could just be doing a better job of sitting in lane, not really doing too much.
And we look at Thresh, of course, very similar in the hook, but of course, potentially more options for utility there in the kit with the Dark Lantern to kind of save people from these situations where you may have a Warwick diving on top of you, or something else like a Ryze. But right now, for both sides, I feel like this may favor Unicorns of Love, because we've seen Samux in these late game scenarios just be huge, just dish out so much damage, and I feel like if you get Samux to that point, if you give him 1 or 2 items on this Twitch and he gets to just ult in the back of a team fight, it doesn't matter how strong your Caitlyn is or if they're even in farm, Twitch just does so much more.
Yeah. Samux has shown he can 1 versus 3 with the help of just a little shield. So for the Unicorns, I think this is the right kind of spot for them to be in. They'll be happy with it. Probably a little happier than they were getting in the pool earlier. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. Kind of disgusting.
So for context, we have a pool in our studio, kind of, that we don't like. We use it like maybe once a week, a year, because it's like, oh, we have a pool. But the rest of the year, it's like a green slime pit. And Ramaz's like, yeah, we really need a pool picture. I'm just going to jump in there. And that man is the only man I've ever met who's like, for my team, I will jump into this horrible pit of slime.
I'm like that. I'm pretty sure you probably need vaccinations before you got into that. The reason it's there is I think Big Brother used to be filmed around this area, so something like that. But certainly nobody anticipated a guy in a unicorn rubber ring there. But Chachi
didn't anticipate that either. Vizicsacsi though, quick sidestep on the flag and drag, gonna taunt to try to make it out to safety. But here comes Xerxes. There's the fear. There is the turnaround. No kills. Yeah, but Trashy wondering if he can go back in or not. Has to be safe. Warwick, the king of 1v1s, does stop the body slam from going over the wall. There is the blast cone. Someone has to take it to safety. They're trying to tag team their way through it. That's the slow. They go over, but he brings the dog with him, and down he goes.
Oh, Wonder was trying to be a nice guy, wait and see that both of them could get out, but it's first blood. Xerxes is still hunting.
Oh, he's not worried about the tower. There's the ult. Oh, man, that is some team synergy. Unicorns of Love get another one.
Chachi and Xerxes managing to turn around what was a splice play at the beginning of all things. And as Sencux manages to get up to topside after the play is already completed, that's now a 2-kill Warwick, which means he's going to end up with enough lifesteal to just go running under towers for the rest of this game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Splyce can actually deal with Xerxes on a pick that not a lot of teams are playing, and it's difficult to play around when he's ahead.
And this is a little rough. Of course, it's only 1.5K, but as we look at this again, this has to be frustrating for the team. Whoop. But never mind. We got to keep our eyes in the mid lane. On the way in, where's it gonna go? Flay comes in, waiting on something more. Body slam goes forward. Chain CC, Splyce fire back.
That's a nice reaction. I like seeing the Splyce instantly decide that, okay, we need to make another play and double down on the play that went wrong, but now Kobbe has to be careful himself in the bottom lane. This game has gone from 0 to 60 very quickly, and they're still chasing down in the bottom lane as well here. Thresh hook just landed.
Give a couple ultimates, they may just start something. Samux trying to dish out the damage. There's the spray and pray. Mickey's now in trouble. One more shot ticking down. Poison, not gonna be enough. Lantern snaps back to keep him safe.
And in the 2 versus 3, Splyce nearly end up on the wrong side of that one. The amount of damage that came out from Samux using that spray and pray early on, you still got to anticipate falling. And I mean, okay, this game started going a bit crazy. And it's all from the fact that Trashy tried to make a play on the top side, now tries to make a play on the bottom side. And this is why Trashy on Gragas has actually been a formidable pick for him. It's a playmaker post 6, and he knows he can just go aggressive, and the team will at least be there to back him up. Unfortunately, the Unicorns, they're great at skirmish.
They're just going to continue to move forward. Xerxes just continues to hunt for blood. Wonder, I'm not sure if there's a right way. Cataclysm blocks the wall, but in comes the ultimate suppressed, locked up under tower. Shen may not do the damage, but he's more than happy to tank it up.
It was a nice attempt from Wonder to get out of that situation. Jumps up, takes a couple of tower shots onto Chachi, tries to get himself out with the ultimate, but it wasn't to be. Now
Trashy onto Exile, knocked back into the fight. Has to be careful, but there's just too much CC. He can't even push his buttons. He gets taken out.
Seen that one 2 minutes ago in the mid lane, where Exile was not quite as pushed up as that time, but Splyce now punishing. These teams are going blow for blow on every single trade here, and it's 2 kills on Aurelion Sol, 2 kills on the other side of the map for Xerxes Warwick, and this one I don't think has any chance of slowing down.
And I like teams are telling us who they're worried about. And for Unicorns Love, they're like, yeah, that Wonder guy, he doesn't get to play League of Legends today. Opposite side Splice are like, that Exile guy, no. No one picks Ryze against us. They're both just camping the same lane over and over again, and it's working. You can't knock them for it.
No, you absolutely can't. And look, Chachi is in his element now. He's got a significant lead. He just walks up to Wonder and trades with him.
It's a 2-level advantage, Stress. That is Ninja Tabby. Wonder just does not have the raw stats to go toe-to-toe with Shen right now.
And the problem for that is Jarvan that is 0-2-0 is not going to have a great effect in this game. The best thing he can do now is like hold people in place for Senkux and Kabi to kill. That's about the only thing that Wonder's going to be able to do here, as he may not even be able to sit here.
He might be in trouble. Visit Josh, just walking towards the tower. Hasn't hit him yet. He's just waiting.
He's just taunting him.
Now he taunts him to get outside the tower range, blocks a bit of damage, tries to make it out.
Oh, that is like life imitating art when you're walking around, like daring him to move, and then you actually taunt him under the tower.
I want to say baited. He got him to walk outside the tower so he could taunt him, missing out on a. Oh man, that's dirty. That is solo queue Tryndamere levels of BM, where you just pop the ult and you continue to auto attack people, ignoring the tower. But that's a 2-level advantage. It only gets worse from your Stress.
Love me some Chachi at this point. Manages to get the solo kill in the top lane. Now Hylissang and Samux, great play.
Comes forward, they're gonna keep him going. Samux always got the Shen ult coming in, but in goes Senkux. He's got damage, he's ready. To taunt is there. That does stop the spheres from orbiting. Looking for the stars to hit down just a little bit more. Kabi gonna pop the ultimate. There's the Voice of Light. Still hitting him, still getting chipped down. Splice now, taking the play right back.
Again, every time there's one play,
there's the Jarvan. Can't fight the Shen, but he can pop the Twitch. No surprise there on the turnaround. Splice now gonna get a tower as well, and instantly they are back in the game.
Okay, divide the map in half along mid lane. Unicorns have won topside quite spectacularly, but Splice on the bottom half are evening things back up. But Exile, he doesn't care for kills at this point. He's just pushing mid tower at the same time. This game has gone all kinds of crazy. So Hylissang, that's a great flash flay, but the hook in response from Hylissang is good enough to kind of hold Unicorns. Then Chachi thinks, okay, we can take the trade, even though with numbers disadvantage, because we're going to be able to get there with the Warwick. Look at the map. Warwick's already closing in, but it's too little, too late. And then nobody was really expecting Wonder to come in from the backside of the fight, take out Samux under the tower, and suddenly we're in an even kill, almost even gold game that has had a massive number of fights.
8 kills, 15 minutes in. This is the closest we get to LPL in the ULCS. But the gold, I mean, the gold's basically spot on even now, Stress. And we look across at towers traded back and forth. Unfortunately for Wonder, it's still really hard for him to find a lane to go to, but we've seen Splice, they can coordinate these plays, and they have a window of opportunity to do so, because you look at that Shen ult down, not available, and that is the big decider in so many of these fights.
Oh, but something else that is down is Wonder 50 CS. That's painful at the same time, with 2 kills going over. So Wonder can't sit in the lane against Chachi, as you already highlighted, so he has to wait for his own TP. That's the problem, is it's now based around where Aurelion Sol can go on the map with them. But I like this play. Put the Caitlyn in the mid lane. Try and push that Ryze back up towards his tower. But with Rift Herald still available for the next 3.5 minutes, I think that's what Splice are going to need to be able to crack through that mid lane eventually. But that's a tough ask, because, you know, there's a Warwick, you've got the Ryze ultimate to get them in place, you've got to be careful of Hylissang and Samux. There are so many different things that Unicorns can throw at the Rift Herald in order to dissuade Splice from doing it.
And as you bring it up, Splice kind of telegraphing that intent potentially with so much vision around the top side of the map. But Unicorns Love, they've got vision everywhere. Control wards, mirrored spots, both on the top and bottom side of the river. Some vision in the pit as well. So Unicorns Love some solid knowledge across the map. And now Exile is in trouble, but it looks like it may be a little bit more than Splice initially anticipated. Lantern there to save him. Trashy knocks Hylissang back to the team. Don't quite chain the trap. And that means the play is going to stop in its tracks. But Exile still hungry for a bit of blood, as is the case with Xerxes, but Unicorns Love back away.
Oh, Chachi was on his way to the fight and then stopped because he knew he could solo kill Wonder if Wonder was running over to it as well. And they went different ways on the bot side of the jungle. You could see how hooking Trashy was not exactly what Hylissang wanted, but he got away with it. Now it's Xerxes.
Hook, chain CC goes forward. Nobody can get feared. Flag and drag, but the Infinite Duress takes him over the wall. Now it's an escape. You know, that's the perks of the rework. You don't just have to go in, you can also go out.
When you're 2-0-1, you can use the ult however you want at this point for Xerxes. He's like we're the only jungler in Europe still playing this. Trick had like a game in spring. But we talked to
Jankos also brought it up once.
Oh,
we got to give a little credit over there, but I agree. This feels definitely like the Xerxes special.
Yeah, and he was talking to us on PGL, post-game lobby last week, a little bit about this Warwick, talking about how strong it can feel and how you can just go aggressive and it's still a solid pick. So it's certainly the Unicorns, when you look at quote-unquote teams figuring them out, I still think there are a couple more things to figure out how to play around because nobody's really done that against Xerxes Warwick too much yet.
Well, not just Xerxes Warwick now. Now we have to worry about the Ryze as well. And while Exile may be struggling in this game, it still feels like a little bit of an unknown factor in terms of what it's going to bring as we move later in the game. Is it going to be the same style of inevitability where once Ryze gets a few items, he just dishes out way too much damage? Or is he going to have to play a more backseat role and set up Samix?
I think Exile is going to basically play distraction like he has been the last couple of weeks, where he'll play that midpoint in team fights where he's enough of a threat that Splyce will have to address him, and that'll buy Samix the time in team fights. It's kind of what Roccat were doing a long time ago on these tankier mages, but I think Unicorns have been utilizing, and that's why Exile's stats have not looked great. And his performances haven't looked great the last week or so either. He's been struggling.
Yeah, if we're honest, up against Fevin, he got absolutely destroyed in the laning phase. And now he has been a top mid laner in EU for what I feel like is a while. So I don't think we can call this indicative of his true level, but maybe more of a slump for Exile at this point, because it hasn't looked great. But admittedly, this game and in the games against H2K, he did receive so much jungle attention.
Right, and coming into this split, I was thinking, you know, Exile's one of my guys to watch. I want to, you know, I want to celebrate when he does well and make maybe his plays look great. But unfortunately, the last week or so hasn't exactly played out that way for Exile. He's actually kind of been on the back foot in a lot of situations, and this series starts the same. He's been pushed up too far, dies twice, and now he has to kind of build his way back into the game. But the Unicorns, it's their team fighting that is their strongest benefit, and that is where Exile shines the most.
Definitely true, and of course, last week when, you know, Exile couldn't really step up, it was Samix who stepped up instead, who really carried the team to victory so many times, and that's kind of the beauty of the Unicorns of Love, right, is that they have carry threats now with Samix proving himself in each of their lanes. It's not going to be Chachi this time on the Shen, admittedly, but there is still that potential. And on the opposite side for Splyce, Kobbe on this Caitlyn has been lethal when Splyce were victorious. They're going to have to make it to late game, and the late game battle of AD carries just feels so rough, but now it's a game to fight to keep going. Stars are coming out, Hylissang getting ticked down lower and lower, will get burned down in the end. Exile doing his best to dish out the damage. Spirit Refuge buys a little bit of time, but Ryze is now trapped in the pit and is going to get taken down, knocked just out the edge, and Splyce, total control here as they look to take down the tier 1.
Much better from Splyce. You can see General Jeeves on the bottom side of your screen, happy with Splyce finally being able to crack the mid lane tower. I feel like Mickey had a beautiful flash over the hook for the Flay, but did Kobbe actually get hit by the hook behind
Someone got hit by the hook. I heard the sound. I honestly could not tell you. I got way too excited when that fight started.
I was excited at the flash Flay at first to dodge the hook, but I think Kobbe got hit by it afterwards because he ended up right under that Blitzcrank, and somehow Splyce still come out ahead of it because the numbers advantage, despite their AD carry getting hooked in by the Blitzcrank in that situation. But you were talking about how Kobbe needs to get to the late game. Infinity Edge Static Shiv is finished. Like, this is a beautiful flash over, but yeah, Kobbe. So that's the hold my drink, I'm going in play from Mickey, and nobody was ready.
And
for
it works out well for them. We got to give them credit there, but a little awkward, admittedly. Late game, that may have been a bit more of a disaster, but for now, it was the aggressive engage the team needed. And we got to say, Mickey, 0-0-5 on this Thresh. He's making plays across the map. Unicorns of Love didn't seem worried about the Thresh, but maybe they should have been, because the Hylissang on this Blitzcrank, it's had its moments in the past, but it just doesn't feel as good here.
I feel like you could call that one a disaster piece, because that was beautiful out of Mickey on that Flay. But you look at what that buys Splyce at this point. Yes, we're in an even gold game, but we've been talking about how Unicorns should be able to skirmish effectively in the early game. Well, they haven't been actually doing that. Exile couldn't get himself out of the situation. Hylissang ended up dying as well. Luckily, the Unicorns have been accruing this tower lead that is keeping them in the game. But honestly, I feel like Splyce are really taking it to Unicorns where they've been the strongest.
And really, I feel like Splyce, are just dictating the pace of the game. We look at the engage options available for Unicorns of Love. They've got the Warwick, right? They've got the piggyback Shen sort of ult action. They've got a little bit of Rise engage, a Blitzcrank. But when we look at Splyce, Thresh, Flash Flays every time. Jarvan, the flag, drag, the ult, and now Trashy looking to keep it going. Mickey throws the hook over the wall. He's a monster. He's just unstoppable on this Thresh. Knocks him back into the pit, hand delivered into the waiting arms of Baron Nashor. Splyce are just on a rampage.
I thought they were actually going to start that Baron there, but Exile helps them out with it. But yeah, again, another example of Splyce controlling the vision well, forcing Unicorns into areas where they actually cannot take the fight. And it's another game where Exile has been picked off again and again. This is really becoming almost a liability in the early game for the Unicorns of Love. Their mid laner heavily not doing well.
Definitely not the early game that Unicorns of Love wanted. And the success in the top lane starting to be mitigated to a certain degree because not really any more solo kill pressure there. The lane just simply isn't long enough to give Shen the time, and Senkux on such a tear means that he is that split push threat, and now he's being backed up by the Thresh and the Caitlyn if he needs it.
And he's already got that Rylai's Crystal Scepter and the Hextech Hose completed, so anybody trying to get away from him in a long lane is pretty much out of luck at that time. But we haven't really talked too much about Senkux. This is now the second appearance of this Aurelion Sol. It was banned, I believe, in week 1 or 2 in a game before we'd even seen it. So we certainly knew that this pick would be strong for Splyce, but I think at this point, the fact that he's 3-0-3 against the group leaders for Group B, and Exile has struggled a lot in response to it, I think is a bannable pick once again for Splyce. I don't think you can let them have this.
Yeah, it definitely does not look like it. The Thresh as well, so lethal. Feels like the two big setup points. Crashes Gragas, can't take it away from him. 100% kill participation thus far. This man is making things happen, but when it comes to bans, you have to wonder if Unicorns of Love, regardless of the results of this game, feel like they might need to mix it up, because maybe you give him a Galio, maybe you give him something like a Xayah Rakan, but giving him an Aurelion Sol, letting one of the weaker members of the team be so comfortable and so dominant in this game does not look like a good shape for Unicorns of Love.
And I feel like maybe the Zyra ban that...
Hold that thought. Never mind, folks. It's not quite the Splyce game that we thought it was. Unicorns of Love are making picks of their own.
Well, that looked like Hylissang just got the grab there. I think it was off the top of the screen as we were looking for it. Unicorns now find one fight and they instantly say, okay, let's go to Baron. No AD carry on the other side for 23 seconds. And Splyce, they had a lot of vision control to start.
Oh, no stress.
Close to the bush.
They're not about the Baron. They're about the kills. And they're going to get one on Mickey, almost guaranteed. Out comes the damage. Xerxes chasing him down. Samux there to back it up. He's going to grab that kill. Hylissang, he's running forward with the hook. In comes the rest of the team. Hand delivered. Common to Legend. Not enough. Oh, Senkux, you're in the thick of it, and nobody's far enough away to get hit by those stars. Melee range not looking good for the Aurelion Sol. One
bad fight for Splyce in the sense of being out of position, and suddenly Unicorns are right back on form. Oh, no, again.
Oh, Samux.
They're doing it again.
Oh, but he's been hand-delivered.
Oh.
Zachachi runs forward. Hylissang now running Splyce. Trash with the sidestep. Kabi just continues to dish out the damage. Someone's going to have to pay attention to that Caitlyn, and it's going to be Exile. Cersei hungry for blood as well. Don't know if he's going to be able to get away. Doesn't even need the infinite duress. Now on a rampage. Wunder in trouble as well. Samux waiting in the darkness, ready to come in and back up the DPS, but the fight stops, and Unicorns of Love once again set their sights on the pit.
Yeah, this time Unicorns going to start it off. That one was Cubby being over-aggressive. He respawns, thinks he can get towards the fight, maybe get some damage out. Unfortunately, doesn't have summoners to get away. Oh, that's a hook landing.
Keep your eyes on Trashy, keep your eyes on the Baron. It looks like both teams going to back off. Just happy to pick up Mickey if he wants to go down. Baron has now reset 2K. Trashy, where's he going to go? Trying to back the body slam. They go forward. Trashy gets the Baron. Where was Cersei? That is not where he needed to be. Now they're going to have to back up, but Senkux is untouched. They don't quite have the CC to keep this one going. He's taunted up. The stars continue to dish out damage. Wunder moves forward. Now they're going to try to turn it back. Where is the flag and drag? Vizichachi has the damage to take down Senkux. Will walk forward. Wunder is now in no man's land. Unicorns of Love, that is the turn you needed.
Yeah, that was the turn Unicorns needed, and a key thing here is Cobby did not pick up the Baron buff, as I believe he hadn't quite respawned before the Baron actually got taken. So we're going all the way back onto the pick on Mickey to start this one off, and it's kind of easy for the Unicorns to win this exchange. They know that they've still got the Shen available should they want it. Splyce, Senkux gets stopped trying to use that Comment of Legend going over the wall, and the Unicorns just take these single fights again and again go towards the Baron. Splyce come in to try and deny it. And now let's take a look at this smite steal. Both smites are available. I want to take a look, as you said, where Xerxes actually was for this exchange. He heads back towards the pit, and I know at the end of this exchange he hadn't actually utilized the smite. Trashy goes in. Looks like Trashy just beat him to the punch, was a little bit closer, a little bit faster on it, and from there we thought that the Jarvan wouldn't have too much of an impact, but in one of these fights where there isn't a whole lot of health left on the enemies, a couple of autos that go around, a Wunder is able to really pad his stats to end this exchange. But as we said, no Baron buff for Kobbe means Splyce do not have that added bonus.
Unfortunate on the spawn timers, but what it does mean, Stress, is that the gold is dead even again. 1K difference is nothing at this stage of the game, and Splyce are still the ones in control. Not much of a minion wave. They're gonna have to back off on that tier 2, but Unicorns of Love give up Baron. We have a Baron buff timer. If they had it, that's how much time would be left. But no major advantage to either side. Trade of kills, for sure. Bunch of money for Xerxes. Can't take that away from him, but we're 28 minutes in, Stress, and like no one has a major. This is crazy how close this game is.
This is such a weird game in the sense that, as you said, a lot of gold going over to the Unicorns. Double stone plate has been finished for Chachi and Xerxes now, so if they go into fight and hit those surrounded by 5 people, suddenly you've got 2 near unkillable champions.
And I mean, they're 5-0-6 and 3-1-5. Without the Gargoyle stone plate, they're already near unkillable, Stress. But do they have the damage now? We will find out, as it looks like they're looking to start another fight. Trash potentially the one to be caught out. Exile keeping the CC going. Pulled back into the team. Now suppressed. It just keeps coming. No option for escape. Unicorns of Love grab one, but what will it turn into? Because Senkux is here, and Exile is overstepped. Now out comes the Zhonya's, but it's too little. It's too late. They're going to go in. Party around the mid laner as Splyce take him down. Hook does go wide, but both teams just hungry for blood.
Yeah, Unicorns trying to just get Exile out of trouble, but it's Chachi winning the game perhaps on the side lane that could turn this back in their favor. Wunder still likely feels like he can't trade against this Shen. The whole game has been going over towards Visit Chachi. But again, back and forth these teams trade with nobody getting the massive advantage. Unicorns are up in gold for now.
And we have to give Unicorns credit. After that exchange, they are now up 3K. How quickly things can turn in this game. How big of a difference that tower makes. And really, while it was the 1-for-1 trading kills, it is still Unicorns of Love who make the better play in the end, utilizing Vizichachi on that side lane. And maybe if they keep up the 1-3-1, they can close this out. But for now, the team fights feel dead on.
It's interesting looking at how Xerxes has been playing this game. Early on, put a lot of points in the damage reduction that comes from Primal Howl, so actually maxed that first. A lot of people put the points in Q to facilitate some of the ganking early, but Xerxes is like, I don't need that, just put that in as the last skill, I'll max it last, I'll jump on people with the ult.
Don't do that in solo queue, my friends. You have to do the damage. Don't trust your teammates. That's a rookie mistake in the old solo queue.
But the Unicorns, full trust.
Full trust, and you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Team fighting looks sick. Their tanks look unkillable. And the Ocean Dragon will go down. That's the second one. No one's too excited to have it, but Xerxes hunting for blood. You only see the most nearby target. Nice sidestep on the dodge. Reduction comes in from Primal Howl. Shen just standing still.
Doesn't even think about using the stone plate yet. They might need it now.
Potentially in trouble. They don't have a ton of damage here, but they're going to pull in Kobbe, and he's going to back them up. The Shen ult is coming in, but they're going to be all on their lonesome in the middle of this fight already. Looking to take down one of those carries, but Exile is flashed out in the backside. There's Samix. Keep your eyes on that Twitch. The ult is up. He's dishing out the damage. Xerxes backing him up. Samix remains untouched. It just keeps going, but there's the flag and the drag. There's the rat, and he's not going to drop. They don't have the damage. Samix, you monster!
Samux stays alive. The Unicorns protect him. Wunder tried his best, and they're going to try and party portal it all the way to a victory.
We just have to say the way the team plays together in these fights is immaculate. Samix does not go down despite everybody jumping in his face. The Prince of Demacia, the fat drunk guy, nothing is enough to take him down, and now an inhibitor's gonna drop. The death timers may just be too long. Unicorns of Love 32 minutes into the game. One fight could decide it.
What have you got to do to out-team fight the Unicorns? Splyce tried it, but it certainly wasn't what they were doing in game one. As Unicorns, they're gonna get this game.
Timers are counting down, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. The Twitch, the Rise, the whole team here for the Unicorns of Love, and Mickey just in time to say goodbye as UOL take game one.
What a weird game. What a very strange game.
I love it. I love when it's
amazing.
back and forth and one team fight decides it all. That's what I like to see. But both these teams so eager to fight. Splyce proven themselves in so many skirmishes, but there in the late game, just could not make it happen against that Twitch from Samix. And ooh, just so crisp.
He dropped so low, but that there's a heal came out. There was some extra shielding coming through as well. And I mean, Samix, if you couldn't take him out in the fight, we've seen how deadly this Twitch can be, but you have to feel that Splyce will be hard-pressed with themselves. Like, they had such a good early game combating the Unicorns when it came to the fight.
And it feels a little bad because 3-2-7 on that Twitch. Yeah. Those kills came from that final fight for this Twitch. 7-0-9 on the Warwick, 4-1-9 for the Shen. They did so much damage in the early game, but in the end, it was the Twitch who carried it through. But Unicorns of Love ruled the Rift in game 1. Let's send it over to the analyst desk for a closer look at how that played out.
Thank you very much, Strikers. And I think we're going to need a lot of replays because I'm not really sure how all of that happened. I did hear a lot from Mythy, the exclamation, wow, Xerxes so good. Xerxes actually smurfing.
Wow, he's smurfing.
Yeah.
Wow, he's inting.
Yeah.
Wow,
that was Luca.
Oh, it was Luca. Sorry. Well, I heard it from this side. So let's take a look at the first 2 kills early because, well, it was Xerxes, though, who went top lane and secured those in 1 second, just in 1 second. But Warwick, what do you guys think?
Well, when Xerxes plays it, it seems really okay.
Exactly.
But when anyone else plays it, it doesn't seem so strong. So I don't know. Maybe he's just too good.
Yeah, and overall, when you guys saw the draft, what were the impressions for Unicorns of Love draft? Because it seems to be a couple of picks, you know, like a Rise is not something we've seen in any region so far in summer.
Has it been picked 0 times or?
0 times, LCK, LPL, EUNA.
Well, I think Rise is like a really niche pick. You can pick it against some. I don't think it's bad against Sol, for example. I don't think it's good either, but it's not bad. And it's good against Vladimir, for example, but no one plays Vladimir either besides Exile. I think Exile is just really hard stuck on his champion pool, and he's, I don't know why, refusing to pick up new champs when his champs are really not good in the meta.
Because they keep winning.
Well, they
Fair
keep
point.
winning, but he obviously keeps winning specifically. Why do you think Exile right now is showing so many bad games in a row? Because it's been almost every game this split.
I'm not sure anymore. I think I have a theory that he just runs it down to make it hard. That's my theory.
Oh, it's like when
because
you guys
this game he was legit just
That's like
running it
G2
down.
drafting.
Exactly. No. It's like when G2 said we can't practice because we're too good, right? And
Who said that?
Someone from G2 somewhere.
I am paraphrasing. It was more like it's difficult to improve when you're you're constantly winning.
I might have said that.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, back to the point. Exile was inting this game. We can all agree on that.
Right. So let's look at a couple of replays of not that. And, well, what I called up a bit earlier. Early game, Warwick and Xerxes going off, going top lane, and getting the first double kill on a counter gank.
Well, I mean, this is what we obviously see with Xerxes so often on Warwick, actually. I think when you talk to him about the champion specifically, he always says, you know, this is the best early game skirmish.
Yeah, what was it specifically that you found so insane?
I was questioning him why he not flash for the Jarvan when he has no flash and Xerxes has flash, but he saved his Q and his flash for later on, so he saved his Q to cancel Gragasy over the wall, because he knew Gragas had no flash. So he got a free kill there, and now he gets a free kill top without even using his flash. So he's just really insane. Like, I was questioning him, but he played it really perfectly, and they're just really good, like Xerxes and Chachi.
I think it's important to add into Chachi as well, because like every game I feel like these two guys together, they win the early game for Unicorns of Love very often on Shen as well, and then they want to use that Shen
to protect mid lane.
To, well, not really, no, actually they don't even hold mid lane that often. It's more like go bot lane and try to make something happen in the bot lane, but actually the next replay kind of shows what was supposed to happen for Unicorns of Love, and then it actually went wrong. And Mythy, you even were looking at like player cams and everything before this.
Yeah, here we can see that the dueling gets engaged on, but what's most important is that Shen, after killing Jarvan 1v1, wanted to shove top, base, and once he based, he wanted to use the Shen ult aggressively on the bot lane, but instead the bot lane side of the map for Unicorns were not patient enough, didn't give up a few minions, and didn't wait for their top laner to just carry them, because the Jarvan was getting dived from 100 to 0.
Yeah.
There was nothing, if they played this game slowly and just waited for top lane to snowball the game, there was no chance for Splyce, but the UL bot lane was just not patient enough.
Not patient enough?
And there was the mid factor too.
Then there was a mid lane factor was also helping.
I mean, yeah, we've said it a lot, but in the end, Exile did end this game with 6 deaths, and for the longest time he was 0-4, 0-5, so it's just kind of, you're bleeding out in that mid lane, and then you go for Baron, and Unicorns of Love How would you say their Baron control is generally, Martin?
I think they gamble a lot around it, because there's a lot of like, don't actually set up all the steps beforehand, but start the Baron instead, and then disengage to try and fight like they did right
This is
here.
good though.
Here they were trapping. They were trapping. And
Exactly.
It was,
Like, that's
this
the
was
thing.
good. This was good. They trapped. They killed 2 guys. No, yeah, 2 guys. And now they can just base. They have tempo in every wave.
Go back again.
And then go back again and get all the vision. They will have 20 seconds tempo, so they can bait again, and then they will snowball the game. But instead, they insta-start, and then they don't get a favorable fight.
But this is the kind of thing, again, as I was saying, we see a lot from Unicorns. It's like, you start the Baron, you try and take the fight from it, and it's very, like, it's hard to do consistently. So sometimes it will backfire. If one guy makes a mistake, 2 guys makes a mistake, and suddenly a fight like this breaks out, and you risk 50-50 steals sometimes as well. And that is kind of the nature of how they play, which is why a game like this happens, where they win, then they lose a bit, then they win a bit, then they actually lose again, and then suddenly they get this last team fight they managed to win that closes out the entire game. But it's hard to say it was super convincing.
I mean, yeah, but I beg to say that this was, to me, this looked like a kind of a different game, though, from Unicorns. It looked messier than it usually is. And that's not to say that usually it isn't messy and it isn't back and forth, but I feel like they're more in control in the games we've seen so far than in this one. Okay.
Well, I think so. I haven't watched the match of the games. I only watched against lower tier teams. I didn't watch the HK series, actually. And against lower teams, they were pretty controlling, but it's hard to judge because those teams are just not on their level. And this game was just horrible. Like, it was fun to watch, entertaining, but in terms of macro and decisions that both teams took, it was just horrible. And they were like, just lucky to win a team fight in the end, and like just running down mid, and whoever wins, and Unicorns won, so I don't know. Yeah,
definitely. Aside from the lack of patience in the bot lane and Exile inting in the mid lane, there were also situations where Hylissang would look for a hook when their AD carry was on the top side of the map, which was when Thresh flashed into them and they got like a 3-4-0, I think, and lost mid tower for it. So I think they just lost complete control of the game as soon as Judgy lost his advantage off top.
Yeah, so if we don't seem to be able to make much sense of it because it was so messy, so what does Splyce say? Where does Splyce try and point their attention to, Martin?
I mean, that's the hard part for a lot of these teams, because we don't normally see Splyce play much cleaner in the summer split than this. I think Splyce in the past have actually shown games where they knew what to do ahead of time as well and could play like slower style and not just fight mid. But this split, they've actually opted into a lot of these games as well. Like, Wonders had games where he went 0-5 by running into mid lane over and over. So they're kind of playing Unicorn's game, which is not in favor of Splyce, and that, I think, is a bit of an issue for them.
Honestly, I think Splyce's draft was just horrible. They had a passive jungler with the most aggressive mid laner you can get, which is Sol, and they had a horrible top lane matchup, and on top of that, the matchup went even worse. Maybe the matchup is not that bad, but they lost a 2v2 and then they just got snowballed on the top side of the map. Sol could not impact the game for the whole time. I don't know, they just found the intermid, but if Exile just played a little bit safer, Sol would not be a champion because he would not be able to impact the map anywhere, and the top side of the map just lost too hard. So I think going into the next game, they should probably just play a matchup that is less snowbally in the top side, or pick a jungler that has more early game pressure, and I think then their mid lane pick would be fine. I want to see the Aurelion Sol because I don't think he did bad this game. I think he carried a lot the last time he played it. So I think they just need a better jungler together with their picks.
All right. Well, ruthless and on-point analysis from our analysts, and that's exactly what we want. Coming up next, we have Game 2 between Splyce and the Unicorns of Love. Stick around.